All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another special episode of the Unapologetic, Uncensored, Unfiltered podcast. Speak to the mic. I am your illustrious host, Marlon Joseph. And before I begin with my introduction, I want to send a very special tribute or shout out to our Black men and women, our Black men and Haitian women who are going through some heinous things that's happened near the border of Texas. Obviously, what has occurred in the past couple of weeks has been inhumane, grotesque, egregious, just revolting altogether. And I hope and pray that the people who are responsible for treating our Haitian Black men and women as if they were fucking slaves, I hope they're not able to ever provide for their families ever again, because it's sickening to my stomach to see what our Black men and women who are from Haiti have been going through as they've been trying to just do the bare minimum of taking care of their families. Obviously, they've been hit by a devastation of a number of things as it pertains to the weather anomalies and the many crises they've been dealing with out there in Haiti. And so my thoughts and prayers are with all of our Black men and women of Haiti, all of our Black Haitians that's out there, and everyone who's advocating for them to be treated like human beings that they are. And so again, my thoughts and prayers are with them. Now, without further ado, let me introduce you guys to a very special young woman who is doing some tremendous things as it pertains to advocating for Black women to be concealed license to carry, and basically to even protect themselves in all aspects. Rhonda Mary, she is a freedom advocate and also a YouTuber, and who I've been quite fond of for quite some time, and been following her work as it pertains to her pushing the envelope to push Black women to get out there and protect themselves and become armed, obviously legally, of course, but making sure that they're out there protecting themselves at all costs. Because as we all know, especially in the Black community, Black woman is the most unprotected woman of all kind. And then we have to do a better job with protecting our Black women. That means our mothers, our daughters, our grandmothers, our wives, our sisters, all of them. They deserve our protection as Black men. And so me being an advocate and obviously being a father to a daughter, that touched near and dear to me in that way. And so, Rhonda, thank you so much for being on the show. I really appreciate you taking the time out to talk about these issues, and definitely appreciate finally getting a chance to talk to you in person this way.
Thank you for having me. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. So, without further ado, man, let's just jump right into it. So basically, the whole premise of this show is to, one, provide information and content to our listeners and to our followers who are in the Black community. Obviously, talk to our Black men and women, regardless of profession, in real time, and basically talk about what they're contributing to the Black community, and acknowledging and pretty much giving them their flowers for what they are doing in real time. This show is primarily for the everyday Black men and women. This is not a show for celebrities or entertainers. And so the reason why I say that specifically is because Rhonda is a huge advocate for the slogan that she came up with, which is basically entertainers are not leaders. And I can't even speak highly enough about this woman and this statement being made, because I'm a huge advocate of that very thing. Because I do think celebrities oftentimes they get too stuck in their own fame and get in the way of what's really happening in the world when it comes to what affects us as everyday Black men and women. And so thinking that they're educated enough to talk about certain shit when they really not. They need to just stay in their lane to be entertainers for that matter. And so when you're not, and this goes for anybody, if you're not educated enough to talk about certain issues, don't speak on them. I know for me, I don't know everything. I don't have all the answers, but I am willing to listen and learn from those who do, preferably in those different areas. And so I just hope our entertainers do more of that, and less of just talking out of their ass and making themselves look stupid and basically losing out on money and getting themselves canceled for no goddamn reason. But sometimes it's the reason is warranted. But anyway, that we'll dive into that later in the show. But anyway, let me go back to Rhonda. My first question for you is, how did you even get involved in this whole idea of pushing the Second Amendment, preferably from a Black woman standpoint?
So at the time that, a little bit before I went and got my first firearm, and then much before that, before becoming a Second Amendment advocate, I was already a YouTuber. So I was already doing YouTube content at this point, putting out videos. I was learning more about American history, Black history, the Civil Rights Movement. I was learning more about the Constitution. I was learning more about human rights and those type of things. And so, I was already open to the idea of possibly being a gun owner one day, maybe, but not that big of a deal. Not really thinking about it. It's definitely not on the forefront of my mind. Well, at some point one morning while I was driving to meet my friends, my homegirls, for brunch, and this particular morning I was driving down the highway. I was going well over 70 miles per hour when a irate driver decided that obviously I was still going too slow for him, even though I was going well over the speed limit. So he proceeds to ram my car several times, trying to push me off the highway, like as I'm driving. So, at some point in that story, we did both decide to pull over, and me kind of just being this happy-go-lucky and in some ways naive person, thinking, "Oh, we're just gonna exchange insurance and everything is gonna be okay." No, he continues to walk up to my car. He, curses me, berates me, and in this moment, I just kept thinking, like, okay, my family is at church. My friends are supposed to be meeting them soon. Like, if something happens to me right now on the side of this road, like, who could I even tell? How would they know the actual story?
Yeah.
And so at some point, I make a police report. The responding officer is a Black female officer. And one of the first things after telling her the story, she was like, "You didn't have your gun?" And I was like, "I didn't know I was supposed to have a gun." She was the first person to ever like immediately plant this idea in my head that you have some agency in this situation too. You have some autonomy, and you also have a responsibility to yourself because you were in the situation before I could get to you. I'm just responding.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And so literally, I think it was the next week, I went and got my first firearm. After that, I started training. After that, I like as I was learning more in the history of it, particularly with Black Americans, I was like, I gotta share this because it's been so much as it relates to even simple things, right? Like some of the ridiculous themes that I see now in movies as it relates to guns, and I can immediately see like that literally makes no sense. Or when I see a Joy Behar or Joe Biden say, "Oh, you should have shot him in the leg," or "Oh, you should have gave him a warning shot." And I'm thinking like a regular person like me, that'll get me in jail quick, you know? Or if I shoot somebody in the leg, how this person starting to
Yeah.
see and starting to learn how, they don't really tell us that gun rights. Martin Luther King was denied his concealed carry permit, right? Like a lot of these things are happening, and I'm like, I gotta talk about this. I gotta share this. I gotta tell people more. I gotta tell more women, like, you deserve the right to protect yourself. And I started talking about it. I mean, people loved it. It resonated with people, especially coming from a person like me that's not prior military. South, wasn't raised in a hunting family, wasn't raised around firearms people. And I started having
Yeah.
so many people saying, "Oh, well, I want to take my wife to the range," or "I want to get my girlfriend her first new gun, but I want to send her your stuff because I want to send her your stuff because you just look so cute and it's just different and I love the way you talk about it. And I had women reaching out to me, well, I thought about getting a firearm. I'm a single mom, but I have kids, so I have concerns. And so it just opened doors and opportunities for me to talk about this from different angles and different perspectives, as a woman, as a Black woman, as a young woman, like, and all these other things, as somebody who wasn't raised around firearms. And so it was just kind of like in some ways, a fresh perspective and a lot more relatable for, you know, people.
Yeah.
And so just
It's
going about it.
unfortunate. Yeah, it's unfortunate too that we have to go through certain situations that put us in that awkward stance of saying, okay, I have to make a decision now. And so a lot of times we inadvertently are more reactive than proactive, right? So we
Absolutely.
think that, okay, none of this is going to happen to me, or I'm a special circumstance, or that it's not likely that it would happen to me. Obviously, gun violence, it's been running rapid for years, but particularly in the Black community, people oftentimes want to associate Black on Black crime when it's more about proximity than it is anything. But the fact that you yourself experienced something so heinous and just so, I guess, what's the word I'm looking for? Probably it was alarming and very scary for you to have gone through such a road rage situation with somebody who was just trying to ram you and then not really understanding what the hell was wrong with them. It's like,
Right.
and it's like
Right.
a minor traffic violation of some cut
Yes.
off. And listen, I live
Yes.
in Atlanta, so can't nobody drive in the damn city. Most of the times you see situations like that happen more times than not. And I've even seen segments of news where people would literally follow you home for cutting them off or jumping in front of them or things like that. And I've seen issues that resulted to people losing their lives because of something
Yes.
simple. So I'm just like, wow, that there has to be something really mentally wrong with the individual who think to be this damn upset because they got cut off or someone just like jumped in front of them or was slowing down in front of them in the fast lane. It's like something this minute you're getting this damn upset about. And,
Yes.
and it's unfortunate that it frightened you so much to where you had to really just come to grips with reality and say, you know what? I need to understand that I have to protect myself because I'm all I have in this particular moment in time. And so even if you're with someone, you may be by yourself in that moment. So you never
Right.
know what that moment is going to bring. And so yeah, that's very unfortunate, man, that you went through such a traumatizing situation like that because God knows it could have went so
It
much
could
far
have went
left than where it
so
was.
much worse. It could have went so much worse, and it was pretty bad. It was
Yeah.
pretty frightening. Like he was so close to me. It was an older guy, and he
Yeah,
was so
black guy,
close to
white
me, and
guy.
I could. It was an older black guy,
Wow.
and I could literally see that little ring that, like the older people would get around their eyes. Like that's how close he was to me. And I just, like the way he was talking to me and handling me, I'm like, wow, like if you will talk to me like this and all I did was I just happened to be in front of you on the road, this is not somebody that I cut off.
Yeah.
I did not, not use my blinker and get over in front of him. I didn't flip him off in traffic, none of that. He came rushing behind me. And then when I didn't decide to get over fast enough,
Yeah.
he decided he'd show me. So, and
Wow.
even like I mentioned, even at that time, I was in a very just like state of
Shock.
I was naive. I
Yeah.
was a little
Yeah.
naive. You know what I mean? Especially coming from a family with, such strong men and a strong father and my brother who's super protective and not, I can kind of just live and
You know,
be casual and be
I had to worry
feminine
about
and
stuff like that
and
until
don't really have to. I never really been put in a position where I have to be on the attack or on guard and ideally that is how it's supposed to be. Men are supposed to protect women and the patriarch of the family and be responsible for the family and things like that. That is the way it's supposed to be, and women are supposed to be allowed to be free in their feminine. But however, you know, we live in a very tricky world where a lot of people walking around, you don't know what's on these people's mind. A
no,
lot of these people are on these psychotropic drugs. A lot of these people are depressed. Okay, we just went through these whole lockdowns last year. You got to think about all these people that have lost jobs, who have lost family members, like have lost their businesses. You have so many people that are on the edge, and we're also looking at a time where you have more people on drugs for mental health than any other time in history.
yeah, and even to that point too, we as Black people are disproportionately affected in so many ways and areas of this pandemic, of this shutdown, that to your point, yeah, we're seeing the effects of people being furloughed or losing their jobs. We're seeing more Black people who are being much more violent because they like been stuck in the house for so long. Like, damn it, I would just want to get out of the house. And it's just like we as Black people in general, we are a walking PTSD, but I can only imagine how much worse it is for a Black woman, preferably when it comes to having to deal with a lot of these issues. A lot of times, even as men, our own ignorance gets in the way of us, not necessarily dismissing what Black women go through, but just kind of collectively balling that in with what we as Black men go through. When there's a separation, it's unfortunate that there's a separation of issues that you guys go through that we would never endure. And even to that point, our masculinity, our male gender per se, actually kind of protects us in a way, because this is still a man-driven world, unfortunately, and women oftentimes still get shortchanged. But Black women preferably get that shorter end of the stick than anybody else. And the fact that that's coming to light a lot more now than ever, we have to be much more vocal about it as Black men, advocating for you all, to protect you all, to make sure that you all are getting all the equal rights that you deserve, and making sure that these people out here like that jerk who basically was trying to basically frighten you in such a way that he was going to possibly threaten your life like that. We need to be protecting you from people like that. Because again, and the fact that you have even an ounce of empathy for somebody like that, you're just saying, well, I don't know what he went through. But even to that point,
I mean,
right,
listen,
even
look,
though,
it's been a little while now.
yeah,
So don't think it started off that way. It
no,
did
no,
not.
I'm sure. Yeah.
Okay. You know, it did not start off that way, but like the more I learn, I see that the biggest key to gun ownership is actually de-escalation and walking away.
Absolutely.
The biggest key to safe and responsible gun ownership is so many times now where instead of me thinking, oh, this guy is going to come and we're just going to switch insurance, now my immediate thought is, I don't know what this person has on them.
Yep.
I don't know what kind of mood they're in. I don't know what they're going to say, and I don't know what they're going to do. Yep. Okay. So I need to make sure that I'm prepared and ready to act whichever way this may go. And it's not a paranoia, it's preparation, right?
It is. And it sometimes gets tangled up too, right? Because, and it's unfortunate that paranoia sometimes is warranted based on the surroundings and based on the situations that have recently happened around you or around the area that you live in, anything like that. So we oftentimes do walk with a sense of paranoia, but also, to your point, that preparation part is that, all right, well, listen, I got to always have this on me because I don't know what's going to happen, or I don't know how people are going to react in situations like that, because I don't know what they went through. They got them this upset. It could be nothing that's dealing with me personally, but the fact that they this upset, now I got to focus on, okay, let me protect myself, because it's going to either be you or me, and damn it, it ain't going to be me today.
Right.
So it's those types of things that you have to worry about oftentimes even creates paranoia within themselves, within those situations. And so I do feel as if, though, we always have to be prepared, but the unfortunate thing is we always have to be prepared for the worst rather than the best. And that's we try to expect, our expectations oftentimes get let down and misled too much, because we expect another human being to act like a goddamn adult about situations that shouldn't even escalate to something being confrontational.
Right,
but it's unfortunate that that's not the case all the time. And so
people have killed people for way less.
For stupid shit. It's unfortunate for me that I had to experience death recently. My uncle, who was a retired military man and a retired Chicago fire chief, he experienced, he was killed in Chicago in December of last year, and 4 young men tried to jack him for his Jeep. And my uncle was a huge advocate of being a concealed license to carry, and he was carrying as well. And so the one thing that I know about my uncle, even as horrendous as the video showed of him reaching for his gun and shooting back before they even got shot off, one of those shots from those stupid bastards reached my uncle's sternum and shot him in the stomach. And he wasn't even intending on shooting him. he wasn't even intending on trying to shoot at him. He was trying to just shoot just to get him away from him. But my uncle was actually like, you would think that my uncle was attacking them if you had saw it, right? But the fact he was defending himself because this was his car. Three out of the four guys jumped out of the car. Two of them had guns, and he retaliated. His mind went straight into military mode, and he instantly drew his gun and started shooting. For me, I just wish that he had let them just get away. But I knew for a fact that he was protecting himself, and so, grateful to God that they were able to catch all four of the guys, and so, things are pending right now, but we'll see how it goes in coming months. But I myself, I've had those talks with my uncle about being a licensed carry owner, which I am. I actually have a gun. I have several guns now, so, and I'm interested in buying more guns because of the fact that, to your point, I don't know what these people's intent are. Even on social media, people oftentimes portray themselves as social media tough guys, and that they want to sit up here and threaten you and shoot you, go live. These kids now today are just out of their fucking heads with how they just threatening each other and pulling up on each other for no fucking reason at all. And it's like we've gotten to a place where people are so gun happy that that's the only thing you resort to now. Now it's not even about even fist fighting anymore. Now it's just about shooting for no fucking reason. Then you're actually shooting innocent people who had nothing to do with your involvement. But this is where we are now. And it's been exacerbated much more now than it's ever been, especially with social media and all these different platforms that have been created for it. But even to that point, for you, the fact that you had to experience something this unfortunate, it really woke you up to realize, okay, well, you know what? Protection is the number one priority for me, especially given that, I don't know what your marital status is per se, but I know that if you do have a man in your life, I'm pretty sure he's going to be very much so protective of you as well, because I'm that way about my daughter and about my wife. And so I'm never going to, as long as I breath in my body, I'm not going to let any damn thing happen to either one of them, and my son too, for that matter. And so being able to protect yourself and protect your family is a great deal of importance. The fact that you have been, adamant about this and a huge advocate for it. What has been the one common thing you've been getting from Black women as pertains to them following you and just listening to your story, or even just you being encouraged by the very things that you're doing when it comes to owning a gun legally?
Most several people that would have never considered even going to shoot a firearm will send me pictures, of their targets. And that's very inspiring. That's very inspiring to me. It makes me feel really good. Even recently, I think this was last year sometime, if I remember correctly. But I ended up taking my mom and several of her sisters. We went to the gun range and we shot, and that was all of their first time really just shooting a firearm. And something that I've always expressed is that whether you decide to own a firearm or not, my suggestion is to always try it at least once.
Yeah.
And to learn the safety. That is the most important thing right now, I believe, as it relates to our community, is to learn safety. Every year, there are so many children that shoot themselves because they are able to get to their parents' firearms.
Absolutely.
There are so many negligence discharges every year. Okay. I've had a family member and a friend of the family, both that were affected by negligence. One of them died. That was a child. And my cousin, who he's like a young adult now, but I think he was a teenager at the time, ended up shooting himself. It was him and a group of his friends playing with a firearm. He ended up shooting himself. Now he has one eye, and these stories are pretty common. Okay. These stories, and sometimes, I don't want to say just as common, but we have to talk about the killings that's going on in our communities. Like don't get me wrong. We do have to talk about that. We have to find ways to address that, but there's so much power that we have to be teachers. I really can't, stop somebody that's in gang activity, especially a young guy that's going through those years where he ain't gonna listen to pretty much nobody, okay? Especially if he doesn't really have any male influence around.
Absolutely.
I can only do so much.
I mean,
What I can do is I can influence, I can teach, particularly a lot of these women who have sons, who have younger children, who have children in general, that if you start teaching these kids these things at a younger age, now when they get 15, 16, 17, they're not looking at it like, oh, it's the cool hip thing to do, because it's something you already introduced your family to. So it's no longer taboo. It's no longer like, oh, that's only for the rappers. It's like your son is not going to do certain things because you already set the tone of, this is how we handle a firearm. This is the age that you can get one. You can shoot one with me. You can even compete. You can do it as a sport under my supervision. These are the safety rules. Now that's how we start saving lives, and a message spreads.
Absolutely. We have to teach responsibility when it comes to handling firearms, because a lot of times, like you said, our kids, they see a lot of these, these Instagram influencers and Facebook people who, and even rappers to a certain degree, waving guns in the damn TV screens and in their live chats and stuff like that. Like, oh yeah, we about that. We got these guns, this, that, and the third. It's like, but but first off, you're incriminating yourself, because more times than not, your ass got a damn illegal firearm. Secondly, you're gonna sit here and just like wave it off as if this is something like this is a toy or something. And so teaching the child at an early age how to be responsible with a firearm, as soon as they're able to even understand what a gun is, that's going to be the key to them not pulling it out so quickly at any given time versus,
Yes.
oh,
Yes.
because I have a gun, I'm going to just pull it out and use it
Yes.
or threaten somebody. When our kids need to understand too, just because you have a gun don't mean they stop making guns. They didn't stop making guns when they made yours. You don't know what other people have. Some people may have bigger guns. Some people may have more guns. So to be responsible with the firearm, I do think we will be able to weed out a lot of these issues that happen when it comes to our kids finding their parents' guns, either not shooting them, either shooting themselves or even shooting up schools or, movie theaters and things like that too. It's like, because it ultimately comes down to, what are you teaching your children at home? It starts at home first. If you're not giving them the proper know-how and taking them to gun ranges when they're of age to do so, then they're gonna automatically think, oh, okay, this is just a cool thing to hang around with, and this is, I can show it off because I'm tough. Like, you think a gun makes you tough? If any damn thing, not pulling it out would actually make you smarter, because you're putting yourself in a situation that ultimately you can take someone's life as well as lose yours too. These are the type of things that we have to be more cognizant of when it comes to educating our kids about gun safety and just gun laws in general, right? I live in Georgia, where this is one in few fucking gun happy ass states. So they love guns here. And what's funny about the pandemic that I thought was very interesting was that there's been a huge increase in Black people legally getting their licenses and legally getting guns now. So now I mean, for the past year and a half, we've been looking for the NRA to come out and speak out about this and speak out about these different shootings that have occurred, and see that, okay, more Black people now have guns. You told us to get this gun legally, right? Okay, we gonna play by your rules, by your book. Now you want to put a halt to Black. Okay, this is too many Black people got legalized guns now. We don't like this. Wait, but you just said that as long as we follow your rules and get our licenses and get our guns registered and all this other stuff, then we ain't got a problem. But now it's too many of us that got them now. We're out here protecting ourselves just as much as you are you. So what's the issue? But I did see something interesting in regards to a organization called the National African American Gun Association, or Rifle Association, if I'm not mistaken.
NAGA.
Yeah. So have you been contacted by these organizations, or have you been in talks with them? Because I think I saw one episode of your YouTube channel where you were talking to someone from one of these organizations. I couldn't remember who though.
No, I haven't talked directly to anyone at NAGA. I think I'm probably like familiar with some of the members and things like that. I have different people. I'm connected to different people. I have different people reach out to me and things like that. Sometimes I'll do speaking engagements, but I'm not connected formally to any organization. I will put
Okay.
it like that.
Okay, that's good. I mean, this is for starters now, right? So I'm pretty sure as you gain more traction in this, you're going to be able to, obviously get in contact with those people and even maybe possibly work together with them in regards to, having a slogan or advocacy for Black women to be armed and be protected and things like that too. Because I can see this going so much further than even where you are right now, which is doing a great job at it. And so I just hope that it reaches the masses when it comes to more Black women who aren't scared of guns, but just understanding that level of fear is okay, because a lot of that fear is lack of education and enlightenment of
Right.
how to use the gun.
Absolutely.
And so
100%.
once you're taught and able to use the gun effectively and responsibly, then that fear kind of goes away a little more. You know what I mean? But you can always have that paranoia of, okay, I want to have it, but I don't want to use it. But
Right.
when it comes to protecting yourself, again, I go back to the thing. It's either you or me, and it ain't gonna be me today. So it's unfortunate that we have to deal with such inhumane people. And I've said this in previous episodes of my show about how humanity is full of shit, because we have reverted back so many years of not doing. We've been doing the same shit over and over again and haven't learned anything new from it. We haven't made any new mistakes. We've been making the same mistakes that we've been making for the past 40, 50 years. So probably.
Well, that's because we don't learn real history.
Yeah.
That's because we don't learn real history. That's a perfect segue into talking about how, like, there's so many civil rights leaders were pro-accident. It's not an accident. There's no way possible that campaigns. Everything, it's like voter die. It's like every doing or they make their campaigns for helps them, advances their career. Where are the campaigns for things that actually help advance our quality of life?
Absolutely.
Gun ownership, self-protection being one of the main ones.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's no way possible to get on these platforms and talk about white supremacy this, white supremacy that, and you're not even talking about Black people's legal and human and civil and constitutional rights to protect themselves and their property.
Yep, absolutely.
Imagine.
We looked at it as criminals when we have a gun, but we owned it legally, but we still looked at it as criminals. Like, that makes entirely no fucking sense to me at all. I don't understand that. But yet, white people, they can walk around with their guns all out in public, but oh yeah, they're patriots. That's bullshit.
But we're part of that. We're part of that because we've allowed the narrative, we've maintained the narrative, and we let them get away with it. That's why we have to be responsible in helping change that narrative. And that's why I feel like that's a big part of where I come in at, is that I'm still happy, I'm friendly, I wear pink. Oh, unicorns, fairy dust, and AR-15s type of girl, cheap plug. I have those available in my Shopify store.
I like that. I like that.
Thank you.
I'm going to buy my wife one of those.
Thank you.
Yeah.
But sometimes for people to get used to stuff, they have to see it more. And this is no secret. Hollywood knows it. And I'm not going to turn your show like super political, but y'all see some of the agendas going on now that they're trying to get us more and more a little used to. And then before you know it, it's like, oh, if you not cool with this, you a phobic, you a, ism, all these other words. And it's like,
understand what a phobic actually is. But listen, I have thoughts on a lot of different shit that can get me canceled. because in this fucking society, any goddamn thing can get you canceled now. So, but that's neither here nor there. The point is, a lot of times society has been advocating for the wrong things when we're still, as Black people, trying to legalize just fucking being Black and being protected, or us protecting ourselves, right? I know one thing that I remember reading about years ago when I was in college, about the Black Panther Party and how they were about protecting their communities and things like that. But they were looked at as radicalists. They were looked at as thugs. They were looked at as criminals and shit like that. But why? Because
I love it. I love it. Who cares? Who cares? Who cares?
Exactly.
You know what I mean? At the end of the day, if you know the reasons that you are doing this, you know you are righteous, you know what you stand for. I'm a radical. Like, okay, and what more is there to talk about here? There's nothing else to talk about. Defending your family, protecting yourself, protecting the things, the business, the community that you built.
Yep.
If that's radical, if that's wrong, I don't want to be right.
Absolutely.
And so I'm not gonna allow people to project their narrative onto me. I reject that. I'm not like, I don't like, you can say what you want, you can throw whatever words at me, you can try to paint me however you want, but I know why I do this. And that's a important part of why we need to reiterate.
Yeah.
And even you coming into the show, you're like, this is the reason for the show. Yep. This is why we're having this discussion. This is what we're talking about, and this is why.
Absolutely.
Because I'm gonna tell you what it is before you can project onto me or put anything else onto me. Yep. So that's an important part of it too. But being seen as some radical, like even now, I'll have people, oh, you love your guns. I like them. They're cool, but it's really more about a mentality and a message, way, way, way more than a tool. I'm not a sportsman. Yeah. I'm not a competitor. I don't compete with firearms. Yeah. It's way more about the mentality, and it's a very, very, very important component of Black empowerment.
Absolutely.
And very important component.
I do love the fact too that oftentimes you see people, like you said, just basically putting off this narrative that you're a gun-loving, individual just because you post a picture of you with the damn rifle or with the damn gun, right? No, this is a Black woman who is very much so intelligent, very well educated on how to use this firearm. And yes, she's a down-to-earth person. But let me tell you what I took from most of the pictures I seen you post. I saw you. I'm a very nice person, but you got me fucked up. and I fucking love that. I love that because damn it, that needs to be the narrative more. It's like, yes, as a Black woman, yeah, you can be, if a guy wants to advance and make a pass at you or even try to talk to you, that's fine. But guess what? After you say no, that's it. Don't push yourself off me and try to force something that ain't gonna happen. Because a lot of times, a number of situations happen like that too when it comes to women, oftentimes, reverting to wanting to get their gun licenses too, because now they're protecting themselves for that reason. They go out to a bar, they go out to a club with their friends. Now you got guys pushing up on them. They can't take no for an answer because they got them egos hurt. Now they over here following them. Now they over here threatening them. They following them on social media, sending them, threatening DMs and shit like that. And so it's like now you got to watch your back and your front because guys can't take no for an answer. And I've always said this too, man. This is a man's world, but this is a goddamn woman's universe. If you're not doing things to protect our Black women, then goddamn it, you're not much of a man to me. And I stand by that. And the fact that we are having this discussion now, I really appreciate even more so with the understanding that you are pushing the narrative for Black women to at least get educated first on using the firearm. You ain't telling them, hey, just go get a gun and that be it. No.
Not at all.
You know how to load the clip. You know how to put the damn magazine in there. You know when to take the damn gun off safety and keep it on safety. You know how to aim. All these different things go into just the overall responsibility on your part as a firearm carrier. So, again, I appreciate that because I do want to see more of us from a legal standpoint, owning guns to protect ourselves, but not using it for confrontational purposes.
Right.
A lot of times people, oh man, I got a gun. I'm gonna shoot you. You say this, I'm like, wait, you're shooting people because somebody disagreed with you? I've had situations on social media where that shit just came out. I'm just like, dude, you need to chill, man. Like, folks disagreeing over sports debates and shit. Now they threatening people's lives. I'm just like, man, you don't know me from a can of paint. And based on your goddamn profile picture, you're not really much of a man any damn way because you're not even showing yourself. You know what I'm saying? But it's shit like that bothers me because it's now social media has created this tough guy narrative that you can just talk to people how the hell you want to. And I'm not going to even resort to even going back and forth, having this tongue wrestling situation or this type wrestling situation with your ass. I'm just going to go ahead and block you and be done with it. I got too much to lose and nothing to gain from threatening you on social media.
Right. Absolutely. And a lot of it's just social media tough talk too.
Yeah, it is.
So everybody can be a tough guy behind a keyboard.
Absolutely. I'm curious to know what has been like. You've given me some of the feedback you've gotten positively, but have you gotten any negative feedback from this when it comes to Black women just pushing that agenda?
They'll say stuff like, why do I need a gun? They'll say this is bad for Black people. They'll say stuff like, my the person I'm seeing is gonna shoot me. They'll say they hope something bad happens to one of my family members.
Wow.
It's gotten to the point where I kind of laugh at it. Like I laugh at it now. I don't really take it very seriously for a couple of reasons. The first one being like they're internet thugs. So, I mean, I know if you already scared of guns and talking about we don't need them, you're not going to come for me.
Yep.
Like that's the first thing. The second thing is I'm learning to have a lot more grace for people because you do have to realize that we do have to accept that you have people that do have actual trauma as it relates to guns.
Absolutely.
That's just the truth of the matter. I myself have had one person that was injured and one person that died very closely to me from negligence. So yes, this trauma is very real in our communities. I just recently met a young lady. I think I was in Boston, I think Boston, for a class, and I met a young lady. Her fiance had just died. I don't even think it'd been a year due to like somebody shot him with a firearm, and instead of just sitting in sorrow, she decided, hey, maybe I should learn more about this and put myself in a position to protect myself. And that was a very inspiring story for her to share that story with me. But yeah, like people talk like crazy to me, but I understand that the message is for, they'll gravitate to me. The people that it's not, they'll go away from me. And some of those people that go away from me will find themselves back to me. I have people, I felt to little seeds. It's like planting little seeds. It's almost like, in some ways, programming, and mean that in the television, mainstream media, I'm doing this for the evil agenda, for my donor, for this corporation type way. I mean that there's been a very consistent effort of agendas pushed on our people. And in some ways, we have to change that. We have to do a 180. We have to revert that. We have to go the opposite. And so getting us back open to the things that are already in us.
Yeah.
Already in us. It's innate. It's innate for us to want to live.
Absolutely.
For us to want to protect ourselves, to want to fight if we feel like our life. And then I don't mean like boxing somebody, right? But I literally mean like fighting for our life in those moments of danger.
Yeah. It's unfortunate too that, and I've said this before, that we as Black people, we we tend to be fighting too many fights and ain't winning none of them. We're entirely too many fights and we ain't won
I
one.
don't know what you
We're
mean
fighting.
by that.
Well, we're fighting within ourselves. We're fighting each other, and then we're trying to fight the system too. Can we win one of these fights first? First and foremost, you, Black woman, and I'm telling everybody, all my viewers and listeners to this show, Black man, Black men, we are not in war with Black women. Black woman, you are queens, you are our sisters, you are our mothers, you are our daughters. We are not at war with you. We need to have more of these open conversations and being able to be openly honest about that and saying stuff like that, because too many times we're combative with each other for no reason at all. And so I want to be able to put this conversation
Do you
out.
feel like it's like that in real life, or do you feel like a lot of that is thrusted upon us by the algorithms in your day-to-day life as it pertains to your job, your family? You could be at the grocery store. Do you see a war?
What me personally, I can say it's been one or two occasions where I've seen a man, like for instance, if I was in a lounge or in a bar or a club, something like that, I've seen guys try to push themselves on a woman, and when she said no, and it's just like, okay, well, listen, I'm glad I ain't that guy because I don't do shit like that. Because if a woman says no, then she means no. So regardless of what stage in which she says no, no still means no. So don't keep pursuing when there's nothing there. Right. So for me personally, I never been that type of man to push myself on any woman for that matter, and never will, especially given that I have a daughter and I'm raising her to believe that can't nobody stop you from doing any damn thing but you. No man or woman can tell you what you can and cannot do in this world. And I'm damn sure going to make sure I instill in her not to ever be fearful of a man, because she's going to always have a man in her life, preferably me, as long as I'm alive. I'm going to always be there for her and making sure that she knows this is what a man looks like. This is what a man exemplifies. And so I think we need to see more of that in our everyday life when it comes to just random people. We may not personally see that directly happening in our families and things like that, but some people may have seen that recently. And so I do think that we have to be much more cognizant of what our surroundings are like. And I think even to a certain extent, I want to say that Black men, you see a Black woman get into it with another Black man, we need to be stepping in more. But it's unfortunate that it's not safe enough to even do those type of things consistently, because you don't know if this man has a gun and if he's going to pull it out on this other man who's just a stranger, just trying to just stand up for this Black woman and say, hey man, listen, whatever the dispute is, whatever the challenge is, talk it out like adults. You ain't got to get in her face. You ain't got to be cursing at her, calling her out her name and shit like that. Just be respectful and just hear her out. Well, and you're not even understanding what the situation is. But it doesn't matter, because nothing, and I absolutely mean nothing, can even justify a Black man putting his hands on a goddamn woman for any damn thing. And even inadvertently too, Black women need to understand not to put their hands on Black men too. But this is more about us, because we carry much more strength and force with our hands than Black women do on the average. So I just feel like if we're much more of a communal base when it comes to stepping in and being those Black men, those Black leaders that we're supposed to be, a lot of this shit wouldn't even be issues to begin with. But we have to do that, though. It takes all of us to do that. We have to be monolithic about something other than the goddamn the wobble and the damn Cupid shuffle. Like, damn, can we be monolithic about? Tell me I'm lying. Please tell me I'm lying, Rhonda. Can we be monolithic about anything that's worthy of it? That's what I have to ask that question. Can we be together on any damn thing that's worth the importance? That's a question I feel like we all have to ask ourselves and ask all of our individuals in our community, because again, we're at a place where we're Xeroxing the Xeroxers. We were once the leaders who basically set the trend for every damn thing. Now we're copying the people who copied us. So who's really the copiers now? So that, I mean, again, that's something that I'm always advocating for that. I feel like if we do more of being vocal and being, just being in the forefront as Black men, hey man, hey, don't talk to her like that. Or don't do that. Don't put your hands on her. If more of us step up and do that, a lot of these issues wouldn't be issues.
Right.
But it's going to take more than just a handful of Black men to do that. And I'm calling for my Black men out here in our Black communities. We need to be much more leaders than what we have been. We've been doing some good jobs here and there, making some good strides, but it's not enough. I'm challenging each and every one of you, including myself too, to be doing more, because there's a lot more that we can be doing. But even for you though, as far as Black women's concerned, because like I said, I've seen you, doing different tours and doing different speaking engagements. I guess my question would be more so about just the overall feedback. Have you been able to get other people to reach out to you? Hey, listen, I would love for you to come out to our community and speak on this and talk about these different things. What has been one of the things you can consistently say that you have been teaching them in regards to the Second Amendment in general? What's been that one thing that stood out the most when it comes to Black women just saying, okay, there's something to that?
That is not off limits to us.
Absolutely.
It's not off limits to us. Before, I really only saw gun ownership is for gang members, uh, uh, school shooters, and racists. That's how the message was promoted to me, that those were the people that own guns, and that I did not fit in any of those boxes. So it must not be for me. I can't, a Black woman can't do this. And don't get me wrong, we never think it in those specific terms. Oh, I can't do this. We just, it's though
we're not allowed to. More so.
No, not even that. I don't even think it's that. I just think it's the very stereotypical. I mean, we see it every day. Oh, Black people don't do this. They don't do these hobbies. They don't listen to this type of music. They don't hang out here. They don't take interest in these type of things. And so it's kind of like it's this known thing. You go to different communities across the country. It's like this thing where most little boys think they got to play. It's either basketball or football, right? Basketball or football. And sometimes that is because of what's been available to us in these areas. But it also has to do with, that's what we see. That's what we know. They're always showing us LeBron. You know what I mean? Are they showing us the Black soccer players as super cool and a man to be? Even the Black baseball players. You know what I mean? And so this plays into it, what we're seeing, whether we agree with it, whether we think we're susceptible to it or not. So representation does matter. Absolutely. But it only matters if it's good representation.
Absolutely.
I don't need representation as a stripper, a prostitute, a baby mother. I don't need that representation.
Right.
So it does actually matter when it's opening your mind to possibilities and avenues that enhance your life, enhance your education, enhance your mental, your spiritual, makes you think of things and possibilities that you hadn't thought of before. Sure, that representation matters, and I would never try to say otherwise. And then a lot of times we internalize the BS that we see. This is why music and television has such a big impact on our people. Absolutely. We do internalize a lot of that BS in the music. A lot of the kids thinking, kill, 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 and that stuff goes into our psyche. Music, that stuff is vibrations. Very and hearing things repetitively, it's like mantras. And so before you know it, you'll be considering doing stuff that you've never considered before. You'll be considering,
if you're not getting any outside influence.
Exactly. You're not
being taught the opposite of what you're listening to,
Exactly.
yeah, you're going to result to doing those very things and being influenced by those negative outlooks of life. You're going to be like, you know what? Yeah, I ought to go out here. I'm a thug. I'm a this, I'm that. And it's like, now you're feeding into the very bullshit propaganda that's being perpetuated in the
Exactly.
Black community in the first.
Exactly.
And so, and
Exactly.
society is full of shit in that way too, because society pushes off these very negative stereotypes and narratives that Black people only do this, Black people only do that, when there are much more of us that's doing a lot more things than other than the status quo of playing, sports, or being rappers and being entertainers. Like we're doing other things, and we're doing those other things very goddamn well. And so
Yes.
those things need to be highlighted a lot more than it's been highlighted. And so the fact that we're still in the 21st century and we're still finding Black men and women who are the first at doing something, it's like, why are we not past this yet? That still confuses the shit out of me to this very day. But I do think that, now I do want to ask too, in regards to the racist rhetoric or responses that you got from this, because like you said earlier about how you see much more of the Confederates and the mega folks and the damn all of the different racist people who are very gun happy, carrying all these goddamn assault rifles, AK-47s, M16s, and all this other shit. What has been the backlash that you received from people who are not Black? Now, we've touched on the people who are Black, which is unfortunate, but the more surprising thing to me, I think, would stand out, because obviously most of that feedback you get from Black people is out of fear and out of lack of education. But what has been those things that you've gotten in regards to feedback from people who are not Black, preferably white people?
So it depends on the type of white person that you're talking about. Usually I don't get any backlash as it relates to the Second Amendment and gun ownership. I don't get any backlash with any of your right wingers, conservatives, Trump supporters, and obviously sometimes these people are not all the same, but I'm just kind of giving you an idea, right? Yeah. So with the Second Amendment, I don't get any type of backlash. I do get more backlash with white liberals who feel like, Black people, it's almost like a paternal, like, oh, we have to protect you from yourselves, type situation. Oh. Now, those switch depending on if I'm talking about a political topic. Now, depending on what I'm talking about, either or may not agree with whatever, depending on what I'm speaking about at that moment. Yeah. But as it relates to the Second Amendment, you have white, more conservative leaning. Yeah. A lot of white, maybe like Southerners and things like that, who know and understand that the more Black people and people of color, I don't really like using that term, but who are against gun rights also is gonna work against them, as we start to get more Black representatives, in Congress and things like that, as the country starts to become more diverse. So a lot of times they'll see this as, okay, this kind of still works in my favor too. You know what I mean? And then you have some people that genuinely believe like this is a human right. So who am I to tell you, that you can't do this?
Absolutely.
So as negative feedback, it's mostly always like the white savior, paternal, like, oh, this is gonna kill so many more Black people. And I don't know what me educating. Yeah. I don't know what me educating people, like that's the opposite. We should be educating people. We should be having discussions about this so we can have people knowing how to de-escalate, so they know what's the appropriate time to defend their life, so they know how to interact with a police officer as a concealed carry holder, so they know how to teach their kids about safety. Yeah. Right.
Yep.
And so we do that through education.
And that's a wonderful thing too. Now, my last question is in regard. It's mostly centered around every American, not just preferably Black women, but with the with the rise of mass shootings and public shootings and different in churches and parks and schools, movie theaters, and all this other stuff. What can we do more when it comes to pushing the agenda to educate? Because I mean, a lot of times you hear a lot of people saying, "Oh, they're trying to take our guns away, take our guns away." When more importantly, we need to be monitoring who has guns, because not everybody is meant to have a fucking gun. Let's be clear about that, because not everyone has the mental capacity to handle what comes with owning a gun. And that's the more important thing that I think that we need to be tackling and unpacking a lot more, because everyone don't have it in them to be able to not pull the trigger every single time they pull a gun out, or they just pulling out for show and tell. They may either shoot themselves, shoot somebody else accidentally. These types of things basically revolve around the educational piece. And I think that if we have much more from a political standpoint, if we have much more of a sort of a, what am I looking for? If we were able to put more policies in place to protect people somewhat from themselves in regards to making sure that the right people who are responsible enough to have guns are the ones who have them, then I think we can basically decrease a lot of these public shootings and school shootings and things like that too. What do you say to that?
So one thing is that we have to address mental health. We have to talk about it often.
Yeah.
Suicide rates by firearm are, pretty high. We have, I don't know the exact number, but we have tons of veterans, tons, I don't want to say tons because I don't know the exact number, but we have veterans committing suicide, every single day all across the country. And um that's the first thing. We have to address mental health. That's actually a huge part that goes in the numbers as it relates to when they talk about, death by gun, right?
Yeah.
The next thing is that I believe that we're born with the right to protect ourselves. Now, obviously, if you have mental health issues to the level where you need to be kept in a facility, or anything like that, you're having these hallucinations, things that don't allow you to be in the present moment, then those are absolutely things that we need to look at on a case-to-case basis with due process. Okay, with due process, that's very important. It's not just some judge signing off because some cop in the neighborhood may have been picking on you or didn't like you, or your ex-wife said you did this and you really didn't because she just mad she didn't get the settlement she wanted from you, right?
Right.
So with due process is a very important part of that. So addressing the mental health component, and then also making sure that when we have people when we have people committing crimes with firearms, unjustly hurting people or taking people's lives, not only must these people be held accountable, but we have to be very, very adamant about the fact that we do not stand for crime in our communities.
Absolutely.
This goes back to what you were saying about having upstanding Black men around in our communities that's saying, no, we're not okay with that. We're not cool with that. We don't allow that to happen here.
Yep.
And helping, in some ways diffuse these situations, be a beacon of light.
Yep.
And basically being an example for some of these younger people, some of these hot heads, right? The way to do things and handle things. Education is a huge part of this. A lot of the stuff that we've been taught as it relates to gun ownership, as it relates to guns, is just false. It's just wrong.
Absolutely.
It's just completely false.
Yeah. Do you think that there should be more gun laws in place in regards to the type of guns that we should be allowed to get? Because I do think when you're just a regular civilian, you shouldn't have no military weaponry in your damn closet in your house, right? Because what are you using that for? You need 150, 200 rounds to shoot what are you shooting? Are you actually going out deer hunting? Are you hunting for a particular animal or something? Like, what is it that we need to do to better hone in on the gun laws that's present in regards to the type of guns that should or should not be allowed for regular civilians to get?
I don't think that we need more gun laws at all. The first thing is that criminals, people that have already made it up in their mind that they're gonna kill, that they don't value life, that they don't care about going to jail, these people do not care about breaking the law because they're already breaking laws. So they do not care. As far as it relates to civilians, we should have access to everything that police officers have access to.
All right.
That's as far as firearms, that's what I believe. I do not believe that a police officer, regardless of, oh, this person's job, I do not believe that their life is more valuable than mine. And I should not believe that. Nobody should. You shouldn't believe anybody's life. You shouldn't believe Beyonce's life is more valuable than yours. Now, on paper, her insurance policy may be looking a little different from mine, okay? But
yeah.
But
no, that's facts. Yeah.
But I have a family too.
Yep.
I have loved ones too. I have a community too.
Yep.
You know?
Absolutely.
And so I look at myself, as we all should, as valuable. And I think that I deserve to protect my life just as much as other people deserve to protect theirs. Also, what has unfortunately for the government, exacerbated this situation and made me even more solidified about my opinion on this is the BS that I saw with COVID last year and what's going on in Australia right now.
Absolutely.
People are being beat down for their health, their safety, not wearing a mask. You sitting on your roof, you going to hang with family, you're going to see loved ones, and you got police officers following you for that. You got to text the government to get permission to leave your home. And people really think that could never happen here. It could happen here. It could happen here with further gun control laws, with further miseducation of our children and the youth, with a lack of learning real history. It could absolutely happen here in a few more generations. I wouldn't put anything past this government.
Yeah, I do think too, to your point, that we need to have much more police involvement when it comes to advocating for, the freedom of the Second Amendment, right? I think we need to purposely, I do think that, I think that police need to be more involved with these type of discussions, because obviously we know that police don't automatically see a black person with a gun and think we're going to pull it out, we're going to shoot them. But you see a white person with one, you allowing them to walk down the damn street with one, and they just patriots. They love this country. It's like, wait, so the narrative only fits for them and not for us? When we purchased a damn legalized gun too, just as much as they did. But yet you allowing them to walk freely with a damn gun, like situation that happened in Minnesota, this 17-year-old kid who shouldn't have fucking been there in the first place, in the wake of what happened with George Floyd. That situation transpired. He killed 2 people in a damn protest and he was allowed to go home to another state that he's from, but he was able to come to Minnesota and actually walk around with a damn gun that don't belong to him. But he was able to walk freely and go home after killing 2 people, claiming that his life was threatened. But then the police saw him walking with the damn gun, though. Those types of situations frustrate the shit out of me, because you either gonna have it one way or you ain't gonna have it no way at all. It needs to be all or nothing. Don't sit here and just basically show favoritism to someone who are not black, who has a gun. But then when a black person owns it legally, it's still a problem. Like, wait. I'm following the law just like you are. So why the hell is it a problem for me to do that? I have a problem with that.
So a couple of things. First of all, is that we have to become more familiar with the laws and the laws that are available to us. And a lot of these
each state too. So and I want to keep that in mind too. Absolutely.
The cities and the from state to state, you have different laws. And then in some cities, right? you have different laws.
Yeah.
We have to do our due diligence to become more familiar with the laws that are available to us. I think you have two different type of situations. I think you have situations where you do have bias. Absolutely 100%. You do have bias in certain situations. And then there's some situations where we just simply do not know the law. And as a police officer is going to, especially if he's in the wrong, he's going to try to get away with what he can.
Yep.
And we don't know the laws that are available to us. So we're just allowing them to do these different things to us, especially like in cities like Chicago and like New York. Lil Wayne, I think one of his first charges was just one of his first gun charges was just having a firearm in New York when he landed in New York.
Yeah.
Now, if Lil Wayne, somebody to that level with that type of money would fight these cases up and help make a case for other people in these cities, it can help change the narrative. But instead of doing that, oftentimes we'll just look at a Kyle Rittenhouse who, we'll say, oh, well, he didn't deserve to do this, or he didn't deserve to defend his life, not knowing that when somebody is in a situation with a gun, the judge and the jury are going to look at that from a step-to-step, case-to-case, moment-to-moment basis. There are tons of, I don't know if you saw this video recently, but it was a video where a man was at an ATM, right? He was going through the drive-through ATM. A guy tried to attack him and rob him. He shot the guy in defense for his life. To me, it looked like case would have been open and shut.
By all means.
Open and shut.
Self-defense.
He came back. He drove off and came back to the ATM. As the guy was laying there, he shot him several more times and then called 911. So this might have been like a Hispanic guy. I don't even remember. Right?
Now that particular case is obviously an exception to the rule because you were a bit excessive with the situation. You've already handled the whole self-protection.
But people have to know this. This is stuff that people have to know. Absolutely. It's not just because
it's all about intent.
Yeah. And so now let's say, because I wanted to use that example to make a point. Let's say if this had been a Black guy, right?
Yeah.
Now, when you go into the courts, they're going to look at that from moment to moment and say, oh, well, yeah, you kind of could have defended your life, but why'd you do this? And now they're going to spend all this time debating those last few seconds of that video.
Yep.
And now people are going to try to you can't try to turn around and characterize this as, oh, well, this was racist. This was, it's like.
Because you left and came back. You in the act, in the moment of, you've already basically defended yourself. That's over now. The fact that you circled back around and did it again, now that's intent. Now that obviously those type of isolated situations are different than just the initial self, just protection.
Is it isolated though? Is it isolated?
Well, I'm pretty sure it happens more times than not, but I'm saying
it happens every day.
Yeah.
You have young Black men. I'm going to the trunk. I'm about to pop the trunk. Who rightfully 100% so may have been very justified in that first initial moment to protect their life.
Once you leave, you can't come back to it.
You can't come back. Yeah. You shoot this guy. Yeah. You felt in your heart, you were in defense of your life, but the jury is going to say, nah, get the heck out of here. We're putting you under the jail. Now we can't try to turn around and characterize that some way without realizing the tools and the laws that are absolutely also available to us. And no, that does not remove some of the bias that exists. However, we have to do our part in educating each other and know what we are doing before allowing people to throw us under the jail.
Absolutely. I am 100% in agreement with you on that, because the minute we fully understand the law it would ultimately work in our favor to a certain extent, because
Yes.
the law is still that scale is still, lopsided when it comes to the biases from a judicial standpoint for Black people. But that's neither here nor there. The point is, we do have to do a better job with our due diligence and educating ourselves and our people, so that way we can diffuse a lot of these situations from escalating further than where it is. And so I appreciate you for sharing that take and even using that example, because the situation with Kyle Rittenhouse was, again, that was a completely different situation with him sitting here shooting and killing two protesters who wasn't necessarily in his vicinity of being a threat to him, to his life.
I don't agree.
But
I don't agree with that.
he had an assault rifle though, and then after he shot them, he walked right up to the police with his gun in his hand after he already used it. Now I couldn't fathom that. I really couldn't. I couldn't understand that. But again,
did the police know? Did the police know at that time when he walked up to them that he had just shot somebody?
Or it doesn't matter.
Several people were walking around with firearms.
The fact that people were walking around police officers with firearms.
I've done it. I've been to a 2A protest. I walked around with my rifle. I walked around with my firearm casually. All different type of people were there, and it's not uncommon. So I don't. Well, that is something
opposite of that. Now, everyone's situation differs, so I can agree with your stance on that, especially given that you didn't yourself experience that, but some other people may have experienced that. For anyone who's listening to the show, I'm pretty sure that they've seen situations where a white person carrying an AK-47 is justified, but if a Black person has just a handgun on them, then it's looked at, oh, he's a criminal, he's a thug, he's this. It's these different negative connotations associated with a Black person owning a gun, that narrative itself needs to fucking change, because
it absolutely does need to change, and that's where we come in. But also we have to
be the change too. We have to initiate
yes
ourselves.
Yes, also that, right? Because we help change the narrative. But even beyond that, why do I care how somebody looks at me if I know I'm within my rights? I do not care. I don't care that some random white person happens to think I may be a criminal. Are you going to do something about it? Is that a threat on my life? Am I an officer? Am I under arrest? Okay. No, I'm going home. That, like,
they don't all
end of discussion. It doesn't. But that's why we should know how it's supposed to work. That is part of it.
Yeah,
that is part of it.
I completely agree.
Because if you don't know how it works, then yes, absolutely, that situation is probably going to be even more exacerbated.
Absolutely, especially given that the police know that you don't know the law, so they're going to use that to their advantage.
Yes. But you go in there and you talk like you know what you're talking about.
Yep.
So don't get me wrong. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like they won't try it. You have some that will absolutely try it. And I forgot to even mention earlier when you mentioned about police. And I was going to say something about, in my personal experience, it's been 50. You said police need to be more active in supporting our Second Amendment rights. You got a lot of these police that they're bootlickers, they're statists, they are very authoritative, they want to be the big guy on campus, they don't, they want to be in control, so they're not going to come forward in supporting our Second Amendment rights. They're just not. You recently had I think this was sometime maybe earlier this year, where you had I don't want to tell the story wrong. It was something like a police group came out and was like supporting some type of gun control or something like that. So it happens. It absolutely happens, right? And then yes, you also do have some police officers that are very very adamant about supporting our Second Amendment rights. And I think it just depends on the person, their experiences, along with if they actually freaking believe in that oath that they be talking about, because some of them just don't, and that's just the truth of the matter.
Now, I will in that particular point on this. Remember what happened to Fidel Castillo, and he told the officer that he had a gun in the car, and he wasn't reaching for it. He said, don't reach for it. He said, I'm not going to reach for it. I'm just letting you know I have it though. But I am a licensed to carry owner though. I have my license on me to carry this firearm. What the hell did that police officer do any damn way? Not only did he shoot and kill him, he did it in front of his girlfriend and his daughter who was in the backseat. That was inhumane to treat this man like that. And it's been too many times, more times than not, that Black people have gotten the shorter end of the stick when it came to situations like that, where our lives were the ones that were lost by the hands of law enforcement who have those fucking big egos with that goddamn badge on, with their guns on their sides, thinking they're the big bad wolf and things like that, who uses the law as law enforcers to their advantage. We have too many issues like that. That needs to be addressed, along with the idea of educating our community and understanding what the law is, what the gun laws are, and how to protect ourselves responsibly. All these different responsibilities falls on each and every one of us, not just on one person, one group. We all have a part to play in all of this shit. If we're not doing our part, then guess what? We're going to keep having these major and minor lapses like this. That needs to be avoided. But again, this has been a wonderful topic. I would love to have you on the show again to talk to a friend of mine who actually is a police officer in Chicago, and she has been.
I've been looking for police officers to talk to. They don't want to talk to me. I don't know why. Like,
luckily enough, I have two police officers in particular. Like one of my previous shows, I actually talked to my cousin who is a Baltimore police officer, and my classmate who I graduated from high school with. She's a police officer. She's the one I was talking about. She's the one in Chicago. And so I think they would love to have this conversation with you. And I would love to have this conversation with all of you guys to basically get that discussion rolling as far as understanding how to bridge this gap between us as civilians with the police officers too. Understanding that we need to all educate ourselves on what it means to be a gun owner, how to be responsible with a firearm, and how to also have this relationship, this healthy relationship and dialogue with law enforcement. So that way, a lot of these issues are already diffused before it happens, before it escalates. So again, I will make sure that I'll reach out to you again, because I would love to have you on the show again. You've been very much so informative. I really appreciate you even more, Rhonda, for being on the show to talk about this. And we are going to do better. I am pledging this, that we as Black men are going to do fucking better to protect our Black women, because we have to. Because these are the mothers and the sisters and grandmothers and wives of our community. If we don't protect them, no one will. And so it's up to us to do that. So again, I appreciate you for being on the show to talk about this, and we will definitely circle back with this. This is a very topic, and I'll also include the police officers in it. So be sure to like, share, subscribe to my YouTube page. Also, you can follow me on social media, on my Instagram and Facebook page, Speak to the Mic podcast show. I will definitely be providing information as it relates to this particular topic. Rhonda, let the people know how they can reach out to you if they have any questions. So how can they reach you? Are you on social media besides, obviously, you're on YouTube and your Instagram?
Yes.
What social media platforms are you on?
Yes, I'm on YouTube, Twitter, and Instagram. You can find me at Rhonda_Mary and Rhonda Mary Vids, VIDS.
All right. I'll be sure to include that in the description of this episode. Again, Rhonda, thank you so much for your time. We would definitely circle back to have much more of this discussion, because this is not a one-off. This has to be pushed to the highest limit, because the Second Amendment right is a right for all of us. And so all of us who are cognizant enough to be able to be responsible with a firearm to protect ourselves and our families. And so that is something that's very dear and important to me, and as well as to our Black community. So again, thank you so much for being on the show. We will circle back again. This has been a great episode, guys. I will talk to you again later, Mary. And yeah, thank you again.
Thank you. Bye.
All right. If you like what you've heard from this week's episode and would like to hear more from previous episodes, be sure to like, share, comment, and subscribe to my YouTube channel below. You can also find me on social media platforms at Speak to the Mic _podcast show on Instagram and Speak to the Mic podcast show on Facebook. Be sure to also like, share, and subscribe to my Spotify page at Speak to the Mic podcast show. As I put out more thought-provoking content, your opinion and thoughts are needed and appreciated. I thank you all in advance for your support and look forward to hearing from you soon.